The Connecticut Leather Company not only gave us the Cabbage Patch Kid, but they also gave us a great video game console. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I show you my top 10 ColecoVision games.
Second Opinion Games.
Number 10, Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator. This game was made by Sega, a company known for making great arcade games at the time, so this is far from a simulator. No, it's an overhead shooter. Well, at least on one screen. On the bottom screen, it's a first-person shooter. So it's both at the same time? That doesn't happen very often. And if it happens again, please let me know, because I want to play that game as much as I want to play this one, and it is a darn good game. Now, you could just play it for the Atari 2600, but on the ColecoVision, the graphics have been amped up just a little tiny bit, but the controls have been refined, making it easier to fire off those photon torpedoes. Not that you're going to want to use them too often. Sometimes you're going to need to get your shields replenished by going to a starbase, but if you can avoid docking to the starbase, well, then you'll get extra points at the end of each round. There's also a bonus round where you have to take out these mines and blow up this little tiny pixel thing that just jumps around the screen super fast, but if you can do that, well, then you'll keep on clearing star sections, and you also hear some of the best music ever, well, at least at the time this game was made. Number 9, Burger Time. This actually has some of the worst music that Coleco has to offer, so I usually turn the volume way down and turn up some Guns N' Roses to walk over cheeseburgers to make them, because that's how cheeseburgers are made, right? Well, it's not going to be easy because there's also some hot dogs and fried eggs and other meat-like products trying to chase you down and kill you. Luckily, you have a little bit of pepper that you can stun them with. Also, if you walk across a burger patty or lettuce or something and have it fall down, you could smash your enemies, but they immediately respawn. These things are relentless and will try to kill you at all costs. And when they do so, you shove your feet high up in the air, kind of like my ex-wife does every time, a random guy walks up to her. So when you actually play this game and start clearing some levels, you feel like a total genius because those enemies are rather relentless. You don't actually move faster than they are, so you just have to outthink them and try to figure out where they're going to go at any given time. It's all about ladder management here, so if you really are in the need to play an excruciatingly difficult puzzle game that involves walking over cheeseburgers, well, you can't go wrong with this one. Number 8, River Raid. If you're into vertical shooters, well then this one is right up your alley. You're in for an awesome river run in your airplane that I guess is going through a cavern. You kind of have to use your imagination because if you touch the land here, you are completely dead. Sometimes tanks will be on dry land trying to fire upon you, but that's only on upper levels, assuming that you could even make it that far. Now you're going to want to also fly fast in order to avoid some of your enemies. You're going to want to also pick up fuel non-stop because your airplane completely sucks it down non-stop. I would have put it higher on the list, except it just reminds me that I need gas in my car, and I really can't afford it for at least another 6 months, because that's how long it takes to save up money just to buy gas in your car nowadays. But in this game, it comes fast and furious. You'll be picking it up left and right. But be careful because you could also shoot it, causing it to explode, which means you're not going to put it in your fuel tank. Sometimes you don't really need it, so you might as well. But most of the time, you're going to need it. You're going to want to conserve every drop of gasoline you could possibly get from now for the rest of your life. Not only in this game, but also in real life. Man, why can't gas prices just come down already? Number 7, Smurfs Rescue in Gargamel's Castle. I gotta say, I really love the Smurfs. I love the cartoon, and I love 2D action scrolling platformer games. Now, this one might not be the platformer game that you wanted, but it's certainly the one you got. The Smurf himself moves really slow across the stage, and he can also die by, walking over grass or a slight incline to the hill. So you're gonna wanna jump, and then do a double jump, which in this case means jumping once and then tapping the jump button again once you land to do a slightly higher, more forward jump. This is the entire gimmick of the entire game here, mastering these two jumps. And seeing that sometimes it's really hard to just jump forward regularly, you're going to want to stop and do that double jump often in order to clear every little tiny hill that comes your way. After you clear the game once, well then maybe bats and more spiders and more enemies will be coming after you. So now you might have to duck a little bit more often. I also love the variety of places that you go through. It actually feels like you have a journey in order to get to Gargamel's castle. And then you see a giant skull and Smurfette just standing there looking creepy as all heck. I kind of didn't want to save her because it kind of looks a little disturbing to me. But of course I do, and then I start a new run all over again. This is probably one of the best Smurf games out there, and that's really saying something for how bad the rest of the Smurf games are. Number 6, Jungle Hunt. Now this was a great game for the 2600, and it might be just a little bit better on the ColecoVision. The graphics have certainly improved, even though they did take away all of the parallax scrolling. Swinging from vines is more fun than ever. You might see some giant monkeys also swinging on the vines, and they could be tricky to get around, but if you do so, then you'll be swimming with the alligators. Now stabbing these with your knife is much easier in the ColecoVision than on the 2600. Again, far more detailed here. And the best part is when you run on the boulder sequence. Now you're running uphill, and I like how they control the graphics here with just the grass kind of moving and the actual ground not moving at all. It's a really neat effect if you ask me. You can duck under the giant boulders, but those little ones you're going to want to jump over. And they're a bit trickier here than on the Atari 2600 version. Also a bit trickier is the fact that the cannibals try to eat your girlfriend, and both of them are on screen at the same time. So you have to sort of wiggle your way in between them before you save the day and your very best girl before you have to do it all over again. Man, this girl gets kidnapped more often than Mario's girlfriend. Number 5, Donkey Kong. That's right, Pauline was kidnapped by a giant monkey that Mario used to keep in a cage or something like that, and now he has to save her and get her back. So Mario has to climb up ladders and dodge flaming things and bounce around. There's one more level here than in the Atari 2600 version, and the graphics are a heck of a lot better. Also, you have to pick up all the crap that Pauline just sort of left strewn about the level to try and pick up some extra points. And also because she's a litterer and you don't want her to get arrested for littering, so you want to pick those up pretty much every time. Sometimes I leave some behind on this level that normally has giant springs that Donkey Kong throws, but instead we just have little fireballs moving back and forth. And Mario can't really fall from any distance higher than like anything. If he fell off a step stool, this guy would probably die. So he's quite fragile. However, this is slightly better than the 2600 version and is definitely a game that I have to play every single time I start up my ColecoVision, probably because it's just so darn fast to play through, and saving Pauline is quite a bit of fun. Number 4, Spy Hunter. It might be because I love that Peter Gunn theme, or maybe it's because it's a lot easier than the NES version. You see, they took away the high-low gear shift, which means you could just control how fast you're going by pushing up or down on the game controller itself. Now, there is quite a bit of buttons on the ColecoVision controller, but they get assigned to the different pickups that you could get along the way. By driving into the back of a random van, similar to Kit does on the TV show Knight Rider, and then picking up some boots like heat-seeking missiles or an oil slick or a cloud of smoke that could follow behind you, which seems to do about the same thing as oil slicks, but it can be helpful for taking down opponents. Now there's no end to this game whatsoever, so when you die it's more of a high score type of game. But it's not just a car that you're driving, sometimes you could turn into a freaking boat. Now this is much harder than driving the car, and you have to watch out for different boats trying to throw barrels of explosions. So I recommend just staying on the road and watch out for those cars with spiked tires trying to knock you off, because the slightest mistake and you're dead. But because you're playing on the Coleco instead of the Nintendo, you're probably going to stay alive a lot longer and have a better time while you do it. Number 3, Buck Rogers in Planet Zoom. Holy crap, look at these 3D effects. They're freaking awesome with this trench run, and then you jump into hyperspace, at least I think that's what it's supposed to be, and fly around. Now the controls aren't reversed, so when you push up, you actually go up and pull down to go down. This is really my only complaint about the game, because they did the absolute best they could with the graphics available to them. You also have a planet side run where you try to blast your enemies down, and then we move into one of the coolest sections. It's sort of like a trench run out of Star Wars, where you have to avoid left and right and maybe stay in the center to not actually smash into whatever the heck is in this trench. Why you just don't fly above it? Well, I don't freaking know. It's just part of the game. Then you go back to outer space, hunting down an alien mothership with an actual for real boss battle. I absolutely love boss battles in games at this period of time, and this has one of the more fun ones, even if I do happen to die quite a bit. If you complete the run, you go back to the beginning of the game just to do it all over again, only a bit harder. What really sells it for me is the sweet 3D effects. I never saw anything at the time quite this good, especially at home, and I am so happy I picked it up when I was a kid. Even if I didn't know who the heck Buck Rogers was. Number 2, Campaign 1984. This is sort of like an educational video game, and yeah, it's probably darn best played 2-player, but you can play it by yourself. You pick whether or not you want to be a donkey or an elephant, and you run around all of the states. You want to go into the states with the highest amount of electoral college points in order to win the game. Also, when you're on the map screen, you could pick up a microphone, which will give you some bad news and take some time off the clock, because time is of the essence when you're running to be the most powerful man in the entire world. However, if you pick up the other thing, you will add a little bit of money in your pocket and a bit more time on the clock, because it's all about money management and putting your money in the best possible states. Because when you go to the United States flag portion, in order to win just over 50% of the vote in that state, your clock is also ticking down really fast. So just like in a real president's run, you don't need any more than 50% to take the whole state's electoral college points. You have to know which states you actually want to care about and which ones you could completely ignore. You know, like all of those worthless states in the center of the country, those rotten flyover states mean absolutely diddly squat to how the presidential elections pan out, and then makes you want to shove a lot more time in swing states like Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and in this game, you might as well tackle California and New York in there, and then you can pretty much win with just those states alone. And if you master this system, well then you too can be president of these United States. It's also kind of funny in some of the stuff it says too. I really like this game. Number 1, Antarctica Adventure. A really cute penguin racing game is the best way to describe this. Heck, the game was so good, even the Dreamcast had its own racing game, but that's a video for another time, and probably one I even already talked about. No, this penguin has to run and collect fish, and maybe a couple of flags for points. But no, it more plays like Outrun, because you're racing against the clock here. It's all about jumping over holes, moving your penguin to the left or the right, avoiding the seals that could try and take you down, and it's really hard to get to the finish line before the clock strikes 0. Most of the time, you're going to get there in the final 10 seconds, and when you finally do, well, you are going to celebrate. If you manage to get to the halfway mark, you'll see you plant your own flag on the South Pole, and that is darn cool. I absolutely love this game, and it's one of Konami's best, and they actually kept this going in a series, so if you want to know more about that, well, maybe I'll do an entire video dedicated to penguins in the future, but as of now, this is my favorite ColecoVision game to play. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it. I always love going back to my ColecoVision, and I want to know what your favorite games were for that system. Also, I have the Master System list and the Nintendo NES system coming up, so let me know what your favorite games are for there. Maybe you could persuade me in dropping one of my games off because, you know, some of the games were darn close to making the list, but I just didn't want to pull the trigger. So, until later, I will see you again, guys.